sell? We buy, sell, and trade. PCB Hobby on Back Beach Road, just east of Florida Linen. Call 850-320-8388.
America's kids are returning to class, in school and at home. And this year, learning is especially tough on students who already struggle with poverty, emotional trauma, and other barriers.
That's where our organization, Communities in Schools, can help. For years, we've had caring adults inside schools, helping these students stay in school.
And now, we are taking our work beyond the school walls, tutoring, mentoring, and counseling students, providing resources for at-home learning,
Delivering meals, providing household supplies, connecting kids with online classrooms, and using technology to maintain the one-on-one relationships we know can transform the lives of students and their families.
We are doing whatever it takes to make sure all kids have the opportunity to learn and succeed.
Communities in Schools, going wherever we are needed to help those students who are most in need thrive.
To see how you can help kids succeed, visit communitiesinschools.org. That's communitiesinschools.org.
The Panhandle's destination for live play-by-play.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. John, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Are you ready?
Let's begin.
Drip. The Afternoon Underdog Drip. Live and local. Inside the doghouse.
Unleash the dragon.
I'm the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
And welcome in Bay County. The Afternoon Underdogs here. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes today. David will be back with us tomorrow. And I am joined by Bone Crusher behind the board and Kyle Wright. And Kyle, you and I being WWE fans the way that we are and everything that went on this weekend, for our WWE fans, I'm going to start with this. So, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, my goodness.
Did something happen this weekend?
Well, let me talk to you, right? I think Bone Crusher's already on the phone over there. This is, yeah, man. I mean, I don't even know where to start. So yeah. I feel like I have to let you pivot this conversation in any direction that you want to go, and then I can add, because if I just start going on about this,
I understand.
If anybody's listening that doesn't know, I'm a Florida State fan.
A very, very, very big Florida State fan.
Right. Yes. And I mean, down to the point where I have my own podcast.
Yes.
Right. So very passionate about Florida State, and I cannot give you an objective take on this. And here we go. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, well, let's go on and stir the pot here to get started. Again, if you want to join us on the line today, 215-6290, you can be a part of the Afternoon Underdog show today. Just briefly, we're going to obviously spend a lot of time talking college football. We'll get a little NFL. We do have Steve Barnes from the RebelWalk.com coming up at 5. At 5:20 p.m., it'll be the PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd, and then we will do our local segment at the end. But right now, we're going to go to what I have a feeling is going to be a very hot phone line today. And we'll start with Travis out in Lynn Haven. Travis has got a message for us. What's up, Travis?
Man, I just wanted to say thank you for you and your team to take down Georgia, something that I have been praying for 2 years now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing there, Travis, is in a weird way, as a Florida fan, you got kind of the best of both worlds. And, without, really going after it, you got Georgia to lose and miss the playoff, and Florida State obviously ends up missing the playoff as well. So as rough a year as it might have been for the Gators, you did have a decent weekend this past weekend.
I did. I had a very, very good weekend. And I do believe Kyle's the one that last week said something about Florida hurting. And I think that Florida State's hurting quite a bit right now, too.
Honest to God, I mean, I know it's going to be hard to do, but take the Gator hat off. Do you honestly think the committee did the right thing, or what's your take on everything that went down?
Okay, and I'm going to be honest with you, I just listened to Green, and he kind of changed my mind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But with my Gator hat off, it makes me wish that there was enough room for 5 teams.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, it's so hard to take any of those teams out. Well, I mean, I would interchange. Okay, let me take that back. I would definitely interchange Texas with Florida State any day of the week. I would like to see what Florida State does in the playoffs. As an unbiased Gator fan,
right,
I would like to see what they do. They have had a great season, and Kyle had every right to tell me that I was hurting, because I am. I'm jealous, I'm salty, and it hurts. But, no, I mean, I would like to see, and one thing that I'm glad that's happening is they are playing Georgia, because at least they can prove, you know, hey, is this if they win or even come close, they're like, hey, look at this. This was the number 1 team last week, and the only reason they're not is because they got beat once.
Yeah.
And, you know, we either came close or beat them. And with a second-string quarterback, I think what they've done is phenomenal as far as the second-string and third-string quarterback. They let their defense and their run game really take over and didn't even need the quarterback for the Louisville game.
Yeah. The only thing I hate about and I understand the mindset of let's go out and show them why they should have put us in, the stakes are just totally different. You know, the game is going to be different. I'm sure there are going to be guys sitting out for Georgia. There may be guys sitting out for Florida State. I don't know. I would hope they'd play, but obviously if you're Jared Verse and those guys who came back specifically to go win a championship, and you did, in your mind, everything it took to go do that, I could certainly understand why they may not want to go play in the Orange Bowl. So even if everybody plays, the whole scenario is totally different. So, yeah, you could say go out there and prove why they should have been in the game, but I'm just not sure in that scenario it plays the same, if that makes any sense.
And
oh, sorry.
No, sorry, Travis. We have another caller on the docket, but I don't want to not address anything you said. You know, obviously, I did call you guys out for hurting last week, and we're hurting today, and it's obviously for different reasons. But you know, at the end of the day, man, and nobody's going to admit this. Nobody wants to talk about this, but you're not ever going to root for your rival. But in the world of college football, you need your rivals to do well, because that's like, you need your rivals to eat, because at the end of the day, that's who you're going to play every single year. So the better Florida gets, the better Florida State can get. Like that's going to be good for the other school when they get an opportunity to play these head-to-heads. So like, if you take the bias goggles off, and this goes to anybody, and that includes Alabama fans, Texas fans, Florida State was robbed yesterday. Yeah. And it's an atrocity.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, my wife's a Florida State fan, and I told her, if this makes any constellation at all, I told her last night, she's like, yeah, we're playing Georgia. I was like, I absolutely do not like Florida State, but I absolutely hate Georgia. So I will go for Florida State in that game.
Travis, we appreciate it, man. We have, as you can imagine, we got hot phone lines today. Appreciate the call and your comments today. And we're actually going to head on over. We're going to stay in Lynn Haven. We're going to talk to Carl, who is out grocery shopping right now. Carl, what's your take on everything that went down this past weekend?
Hey, Florida State got screwed. I don't care what they want to say.
Right.
You go undefeated in a top 5 conference, no matter if you lose your first-string quarterback, second-string quarterback, they just totally screwed them big time. It's all about getting the most people, I guess, to watch the game, which I can kind of understand because of the money.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes down to that, and they could not leave an SEC team out. God forbid they do that.
I get that. I guess to pivot off of that, and look, we can look, and we're going to what if every possible scenario as this goes, but
that's true too.
But to your point, Washington is in as an undefeated Pac-12 champion. Washington beat Oregon twice, and that looks good. Beat them by 3 points, I think, both times. Once at home, once on a neutral site.
Yeah, they did.
Now, I think Oregon had a pretty good roster, but if we really look at it, what did Oregon do this year other than lose 2 really close games to Washington?
Right.
My point is Washington markedly better than Florida State? And if not, they certainly don't draw more eyes than Florida State does. So I understand why Washington's 2. I think we're overlooking the fact that I think a lot of people just naturally assume Washington was a lock-in. I don't see why they're viewed that much stronger than Florida State is.
Well, like I said, they were a conference champion, undefeated.
Sure. I have no problem with them making the playoff.
And before this, no conference champion that went undefeated and won their conference has been let out until now.
Correct.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a tinfoil hat theory, and Carla, we appreciate your call, and thank you for, obviously the sentiment. At the end of the day, once again, I'm going to sound like a broken record because I'm going to say this 1,000 times today. There's no justification. There's just not. Everybody, like, you can say as much as you want about the quarterback situation, but I've got proof today that this was being talked about.
Yep.
And Bone Crusher's been busy answering the phone and erasing dry erase over there, so I'm sure we don't have that clip ready just yet. But, like this conversation was being had on the morning before Jordan Travis's injury happened. So this was always going to be money motivated. Florida State was always going to be the odd team out. It's really unfortunate. It's absolutely disgusting. And now, if you're a Florida State fan like me, we're in our group chats like, well, golly, man, I guess I wish we would have just lost somewhere.
Look, I feel foolish. I mean, I have for weeks. Obviously, Coach Hale Show in the morning is all college football, and we talk a lot of college football here with Dave, but for weeks I've just been saying, because a lot of Florida State fans have been worried about this exact scenario. Like, they're not giving us any love.
A little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, Georgia didn't hold up their end.
Right. Well, but the point is that everybody was afraid they're not giving us any love, and my point to them was, don't worry about it. You keep winning, and everything will be fine. And I hate to say that I was wrong. They kept winning, and it wasn't fine.
Mm-hmm. I just hope Florida State beats the dog mess out of Georgia and Michigan beats the dog, out of Alabama and show them all.
There you go.
When you wish upon a star, it doesn't matter who you are, right? That's the that's the whole thing about this. And I love my Noles, and right now, brother, I got to tell you that I don't know. Obviously, healthy teams, 2 healthy teams going in 100%. Florida State could, I think Florida State can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the country, but I don't know what's going to happen now. Transfer portal, opt-outs. This game is so in the air right now with rosters.
Hey, Carl, appreciate the call. Again, as you can imagine, we got them lined up on the phones today, brother. But, hate it for your Noles.
Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thank you for listening. All right, now we're heading on to the beach on the parking lot that is known as Back Beach Road, and we're going to talk to Sean. Sean, let's talk about FSU as well. Sean, what's going on today?
Just out here living the dream.
I hear you, brother.
I could be nightmare. I haven't figured it out yet, but it's one or the other.
There you go.
But if you're on Back Beach, I would imagine the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been dealing with this for 15 years. But anyways, I'm calling you on my long drive home into Panama City from the west end of the beach. But anyways, what I've heard the first 2 or 3 callers, I just had a little different take on, I won't say the same thing they did. Obviously, everybody thinks. But, I'm a Florida State fan, but I saw this coming. I'm sure most Florida State fans did.
Yeah.
They saw this coming, and it shouldn't have been a big surprise to anybody. And to tell you the truth, it shouldn't have been a big surprise to the guys on the team, the coaches. I did see later some video footage of when they were having lunch or something.
Yeah.
And the team was, and the coaches there with a few, right there. And then they kind of, a few heads dropped, and some other guys got back up, went to either they were leaving, they were going to get some more food. But, it didn't seem like it was just like a total shock. Everybody standing up, their hands dropping or something. I mean, the hammer was on the wall, and I feel like my take, a little different take on it is I did not realize that our team was so junior and senior heavy laden in the, I always wondered, where is it in freshmen? Where do we got, from the, freshman class that we had, I haven't, and I got to thinking, I was like, I haven't seen any of them. And the first one I actually remember seeing was, I could be wrong, but was Brock Glenn. The first 3 freshmen I think I've seen play this year. And somewhere during that game, I heard one of the announcers say that every starter, and I'm including place kicker and punter and the other, 22 guys on the team, were either juniors or seniors. So I have a feeling that the playoff committee also is thinking, well, to keep the heat off of it, let's go ahead and, we're going to catch more hell from Texas fan base and Alabama fan base than Florida State fan base. We don't swing a big club, and when it comes to that, and nor compared to most of the SEC teams, and so they felt like they'd catch less heat by leaving us out. And then they're probably thinking, well, they'll get in there next year. We're going to have 12. We'll make it up.
Yeah.
I don't know. We may not make the 12 next year because I could be wrong, but we're going to lose a lot of players. All the seniors, I have to assume, are going to leave.
Yeah.
Some of the juniors who are draft eligible will probably leave and explore that option. And the cover is going to be a little thin next year. That's just my take on it. I could be. What do you guys think?
Well, it's interesting you brought up the scenario because that's something Kyle and I were talking about before we went on the air. Is I feel like the committee I think they knew, they had a fear there was going to be blowback. I mean, they knew that. And it was one of 3 scenarios. They leave the SEC out completely, which I think they were petrified of doing that.
Yeah.
The next one is you leave out Texas, even though they beat Alabama head-to-head. And the third one is you leave out an undefeated conference champion Florida State. And I think, I'm guessing, I wasn't in the room, but my guess is of those 3 fear scenarios, the one that they thought would be the least disruptive to them is leaving out an undefeated Florida State.
Yep.
So I think you're right about that.
Yeah, we've got a loyal fan base. It's just, it's mostly relegated to the Panhandle.
Sure.
South Georgia, other parts of the state. But you start getting Gainesville South, it's mostly Florida, and then towards the bottom of the state, mostly Hurricane fans. But we've got fans and alumni around the country. But I just don't feel like our fans, to tell you the truth, because I'm one of them. As far as I don't get that upset, I'm not going to take to social media to raise hell and try to stir up all kinds of we just take it and go keep on trucking down the road. You know what I mean? And you got Tennessee fans, if they don't like a coaching hire, they get on social media and they get that coach eliminated from contention before the university's president gets it to his desk.
Texas A&M the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we just don't carry as much clout. I feel like you said that. But what do you think about the cover being a little thin next year, and us maybe not even if they looked at it, well, we'll get them in there and take care of them next year. Well, what do you think about it?
I haven't followed recruiting so close that I know all the guys coming in. I think Norvell and the staff have done a pretty good job. He's obviously shown he's one of, if not the best coach in the country at plugging in players out of the transfer portal.
Well, let's just look. Sorry, yeah. Again, we got the phone line stacking up here, so we're gonna have to cut this one here in just a second. But listen, he should be National Coach of the Year, right? Because he took a one man team to an undefeated season. Because if this team was truly all Jordan Travis or nothing, like the media has made us seem like it is, then he's even more impressive. And the last thing I'm going to say in regards to your call. And then I'll pass it back to Brian to end it. I agree with you on the junior senior thing. That's why this hurts a lot more, because a lot of these dudes did buy in and give up Jared Verse was a guaranteed first round draft pick last year. Right. He gave up an opportunity at millions and a chance at getting injured and ending that opportunity for a national championship or for the opportunity to play a national championship. And this team did everything they were supposed to do to put themselves in the position to do that. So now you're looking at that young man right there amongst many others and telling him that because your quarterback broke his leg, you're not going to get this opportunity. And that to me is absolutely insane. And thank you for the call. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I hope they have the mindset of just, trying to be 14-0 no matter who they're playing, whether, Georgia's fully, intact or if they're a little bit thin from, early departures and opt-outs and transfers. But, I hope they have the right mindset. I hope we don't lose many, and they want to play that game, because I think we got to have everybody to beat Georgia.
Yeah.
You know.
I think you're right, Sean. Good luck with the traffic, buddy. We will. We appreciate the call and hope to hear from you again soon, brother.
All right, y'all have a good show.
All right, thanks. Ian on the line. Hang on. We're going to catch you coming out of the break. We need to get to a break here. We've gone 20 minutes on this. I got a feeling we're going to go a little bit longer on this topic. But you are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs right here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Set your alarm clock to wake up with the Coach Hales Show on ESPN Northwest Florida. In-depth local and college sports from expert insiders and a dash of controversy.
Can be deadly.
Weekday mornings 7 to 9.
Nothing says good morning like a drunken human alarm clock.
You're live from the J. Michaels studio.
We all know he loves the Florida Gators, but that's okay.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
I can control the world.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Monday's weather. The rest of the day, there will be a gentle breeze out of the west-northwest, some clouds and 70. Partly cloudy skies tonight, colder at 51. Tomorrow, partly cloudy and a light breeze right around 7 miles per hour with a high of 61. About the same at 56 Wednesday, and we'll have mostly sunshine. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumberyard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
With over 65 years of combined experience, Instant Replay Sports Cards is happy to help you take your collection to the next level. They carry all the new hobby boxes, signed memorabilia, and supplies. New and vintage cards and Pokemon. They sell and trade cards and are always looking to buy. They're an authorized source for Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, and Leaf cards. Instant Replay Sports Cards is open 7 days a week at 752 West 23rd Street, down from Academy Sports. It can always be reached at InstantReplaySportsCards.com.
Chuck was terrible at fishing. He spent many frustrating hours attempting to get results he saw from internet videos, aggravating trial and error fishing trips, and misguided advice from well-intended friends. Chuck is happy now with his newfound success after he visited Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, where we keep fishing fun, simple, and successful. See us soon at Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, located directly off Highway 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach.
From Tyndall Air Force Base to the Hathaway Bridge, we're live and local. It's the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
That should be our theme song right there, buddy. Little Panama. Wow. Well, it's been Phone Line Monday today. Obviously, a lot of people wanting to talk about the college football playoff. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes. Kyle Wright joining me. Bone Crusher behind the board. You are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. And we're going to get to E in just a second here. But, Kyle, you were talking about something earlier. You said you thought maybe a couple analysts have been laying the groundwork for this going back a ways. And you had an interesting take on this with your clip here coming up.
Absolutely. And I'll address the clip after you play it. Bone Crusher, it's on you.
So what you have here is an undefeated Big Ten champion. I just got hit by a bagel.
There's a bagel.
Right here. You got an undefeated ACC champion in Florida State. Hey, Herbie, you're going to need to pay attention. You're going to ask me to do it again.
No, I'm with you.
Washington, an undefeated Pac-12 champion. So now what this leaves, Big 12 champion Texas, SEC champion Alabama, one loss, who lost to Texas, and Georgia, two-time champion, one loss. You've only got one spot. What are you going to do, Herbie?
I think under this scenario, they're in. That's debatable.
Washington, Florida State debatable.
Okay,
they're debatable. That's the controversy. They're in. If they do this, they're in. See, I think they would be in because of what they did here.
This is Texas at Alabama.
I think the debate would be between Alabama and undefeated Florida State.
So you're in the room. How are you? Which way do you lean? Yeah, which way do you lean in that debate?
Listen. Make it easy. Alabama's right here. Texas is right here.
So you're going to lean? Come on.
Georgia.
What are you doing with these guys?
Undefeated? As strong as this right here is? That means if they're in, they beat number one. They beat number one to get in.
But I beat
that's
them.
The best win on the board.
But
who has a better win than this team if they beat that team?
So that and
now go through this. When was that clip?
Now this clip was not from rivalry week.
Right.
This was not from the week after Jordan Travis's injury. This is the morning of. Florida State played a night game that night.
Yeah.
And that's when Jordan Travis
North
got
Alabama
hurt.
game.
This is the North Alabama game. So this was put out before the injury ever happened. So this scenario was already being hypothetically played out on television. And then you have the audacity to come on yesterday and tell us it's because of Travis's injury.
Yeah.
No, again, you're full of it. and we'll just put the little hush right there at the beginning of that.
People have been saying that about Kirk Herbstreit for a lot of things for a long time. Let's get back to the phones here before Kyle bursts a blood vessel here. Let's go to Ian in Panama City. Ian, go right ahead.
Hey, guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you, buddy.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Well, all I can say is the fix was in. It has been in for some time. I totally agree with Kyle. I think that these strings have been pulled for weeks, possibly even months. And when Jordan Travis went down, it gave the powers that be at ESPN to say, there's our out. We can absolutely use that to boot them out of the fray. And if Georgia wins, then we have our ACC champion. And if Alabama beats them, then we're going to get the SEC in that way. But the SEC is going to be in this playoff no matter what. So ESPN did their job, man. They protected their brand. Stakeholders should be happy. Corporate overlords should be happy. They did their job, and the invitational field is complete for the supposed championship that is college football and the national title. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I really do. I was that guy right up until the announcement yesterday. I told a friend of mine who lives in Birmingham, and it'd come down for the weekend. I said, he's like, they're going to give it to Bama. I'm telling you, just watch it happen. And I said, there's no way. Florida State's not UCF. We're not Cincinnati.
Right.
All right? We're not TCU, who, by the by, lost a game last year. We're Florida State. We play brand-name teams. We beat 2 teams in the SEC this year, including one who may have a Heisman winner. We made him look like a freshman. Mm-hmm. You throw in Clemson, you throw in Miami. Texas A&M just hired Duke's head coach, so apparently they were pretty good. So you can't use the ACC powder puff schedule. I mean, it was all right there, and they won every single game.
Yep.
And as for this crap about what Florida State would or would not have been in the playoff, and they want to point to the Louisville game and the Gainesville game, the Florida game, we don't know what Florida State would have been because we haven't seen them. When they went to Gainesville, they were down both of their tackles on the offensive line. They were down a guard. We have nothing to back up our center, so he was basically playing on one leg. 5 out of your best wide receivers are injured. Keon Coleman, hurt. Johnny Wilson, hurt. Destin Hill, can't even play. Hakeem Williams, can't even play. Deuce Spann, hurt. Jaheim Bell, hurt. All these guys get healthy in between now and the playoff. So the only thing you're down is Jordan Travis. And, oh, by the way, you get a 350-pound monster, all-conference defensive tackle to plug into your defense that proved on Saturday night they are generationally elite.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no argument that I have heard so far to justify letting Alabama into the playoff. All right, not a team that needed a Hail Mary miracle to beat a crap Auburn team that got their doors blown off by New Mexico State, not a team that needed a dogfight against USF to walk out with a W, and not a team that lost a game at home by 10 points to the Big 12 champion.
Yep.
But none of that mattered because ESPN was going to do what ESPN does, which is protect the SEC. And Fox, as far as I'm concerned, is just as complicit because they were going to take care of the Big Ten with Michigan, who played no one all year and offensively has just looked just as putrid as anybody else in the nation these last 3 weeks.
Yep.
Get them out of here. And as far as Washington, they absolutely deserve to be there. But, you asked earlier, Brian, about why is Washington in there? Where's Washington playing next year?
That was where I was going next. The irony in all of this is Washington going to be in the Big Ten next year. Texas going to be in the SEC next year. You're right. The funny thing is, to your point, I think you're
that brand, boys, doing what they've got to do.
Yeah. Well,
and this is what scares me. Everybody's thrilled that we're going to 12 teams. And listen, Florida State would not have been left out in the 12-team format. Duh. All right, that's asinine to suggest. But what you're going to now run into is on the fringes every year. So if you're, Florida State, you went 10-2 in the ACC. You lost nail biter to Clemson. Lost somewhere else along the way. Okay, so you're 10-2 ACC runner-up, and LSU finished 10-2, but never made their conference championship because they lost to Bama and they lost to Texas A&M. Who do you think the committee is going to take?
Yeah.
They're going to take the SEC team because they're always going to stand by the SEC, or vice versa. 10-2 Iowa. Well, it's a Big Ten team. They're always going to stand by those two conferences. Moving forward will always get preferential treatment, and that is the new landscape of college football. It is an ESPN Fox war.
The irony in this with ESPN is that they're in bed with the SEC. Who else are they in bed with? The ACC.
Well, yeah, technically.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the ACC over a barrel, but they're actually in, and I believe it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think it's ironic. The other thing, and you brought this up, Ian, so I want to go into it a little bit because I've been thinking a lot about this. I do think some of the things that hurt Florida State were what happened with TCU last year. And one of the things that bothers me about that conversation is, yes, TCU got absolutely their doors blown off. We were at Dave & Buster's last year, watched it all. Yeah, they were down there starting tailback. I'm not sure anybody was beating Georgia last year. Right. But what all the people who say TCU didn't belong there are conveniently forgetting is they said that and that Michigan would never beat them, or they would never beat Michigan. And what did they go out and do? They went out and beat Michigan.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I hate that argument that we have to make sure we don't get another TCU. All TCU did was go in there and beat the Big Ten champion.
Yep.
Yeah, they got boat raced in the championship game. I understand. But to use that as some kind of justification for Florida State bothers me to no end because people conveniently forget that semifinal game.
Well, two things, and I'll let you guys go because I know you got a ton of callers lined up to rave about this, and rightfully so. Hopefully most of them are Noel fans. But two other things I do want to say, and hell, I forgot the first one. But the second one I do want to say is there's really only one thing I think that changes the scenario for Florida State. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is, the whole discussion about the eye test is just crap. Yeah. Florida State looked like this the last few weeks. We think they're going to get boat raced in the playoff. Well, Oregon was a double-digit favorite over Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. How'd that work out?
Yeah.
That's why we played the game.
That's exactly.
Wins and losses have to be the metric that decides who goes where, period.
Agreed.
But the other thing I wanted to say, and then I'll hang up, there's one thing that I think changes all of this. In some other alternate universe, everything that has happened to Florida State happened. All right, they ran the table. They went 13-0. Jordan Travis got hurt. They had to muddle through the last two games, but they still closed the deal and got the wins and finished 13-0 conference championships. And want to know why they got into the playoff? Because Deion Sanders was the head coach. And the committee looked at that and said, what a storyline we have here. The prodigal son returns to Florida State, resurrects the program from the ashes, Coach Prime, defying the odds, defying an injury to his best player, and they still finished 13-0. Yeah. We'll rank them second. Wholly believe that would have happened.
Yeah.
Wholly believe it.
I can't help but to agree with you, Ian.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, and this whole thing is politically moved, right? Prime said it himself today on an interview with 24/7 Sports. He said that it's a business at the end of the day. He feels bad for Florida State. He felt bad for Georgia. He felt worse for Georgia. Of course, he's not going to give Florida State the benefit of the doubt on anything because they didn't hire him. But he said at the end of the day, this is entertainment. And it really is, man. That's what it's all about. They could say it's about the best four teams, but it's all about the ratings. And Alabama and Texas, I'm a Florida State fan, but I'm man enough to admit that Alabama and Texas bring in more money. Alabama and Texas are going to bring in more eyeballs. And that's what this came down to at the end of the day. Actually, Ian, I'm glad you called today because we had a Facebook question come through. Alvin Edwards said, do you think FSU may jump ship from the ACC? And I had Ian on my podcast before the season even started. It's the Know It All podcast, by the way. I'm going to get my shameful plug in there somewhere. Got to, right? Go check it out, Know It All podcast. I wouldn't listen to it around your kids. Nah, there you go. Wouldn't listen to it around your kids. Not today's episode, at least. Maybe put in your earbuds. But Yeah, we talked about this before the season started when the rumors started to come out, and Ian was so nice to be able to join me, and we had an incredible conversation. And he wanted us to the SEC, I wanted us to the Big Ten, and then we had a third guy who wanted us to the Big 12. And and he was just like being really sarcastic with his Big 12 take, but he built a really good argument for it. But now, Ian, and I know I sit here and I've been given incredible opportunities by Randy Williams with these 4 letters tattooed on my chest, right? And I've been given incredible opportunities to be able to call football games for the Mosley Dolphins. And so for me I can't sit here and slander the brand of the 4 letters, but I will say this, that now I think that my Big Ten take was more correct than ever. And what you do if you're Florida State, now you've got your lawsuits. Now you can fund your exit out of the conference. However it's got to be done, it's got to be done. You get out of the crap ACC, because at the end of the day, that is a major factor in this, right? The ACC was not able to provide the level of competition that Florida State deserved to play, apparently. And apparently that made us not good enough. So what you do is you use this to fund your exit. You go to the Big Ten, you give your games to Fox, and you ban ESPN from campus.
Well, and one other thing to consider on that front, and I know I said I'd let you go, but hey, man, you're keeping me here. Sure, Paul.
Come on.
You have to look at this if you're another ACC team. Let's say you're Clemson or you're NC State, who had a pretty decent year this year. You have to look at this and be like, good God, if they can do that to Florida State, of course they can do it to us.
Yeah.
We all need to get back together. The Magnificent Seven or whatever they wanted to call us, this is real now. It is gut check time. And we need to get our lawyers on the ball, and we need to figure out how we disintegrate this thing so that we can all move on. So you guys have a great show. Thanks, as always, for the take.
Appreciate you, Ian. Appreciate you calling in. Appreciate everybody who has called in today. If you want to give your take on the college football playoff and what you think of the committee members,
yeah,
you can give us a call here at 215-6290. Heck, if you think they got it right, give us a call. We'd love to hear that take as well.
Yeah,
May not agree, but, I'd love to hear that take.
The thing is, everybody deserves their opinion, right?
Sure.
And then that is an incorrect opinion, but you deserve to have it. So please, absolutely.
So real quick, I want to get into this, okay? So I brought up the part about Washington, whatever. I don't have any issue with Washington being in. You can say they had better win than Florida State. That's fine.
Right.
Here's a scenario I want to throw out to you.
Okay.
Georgia beats Alabama.
Okay.
So Georgia's going to be in, Michigan's going to be in, Washington's going to be in. Do any of us think Texas jumps Florida State?
Not only did Texas jump Florida State, they jumped Ohio State.
Yeah.
Right? Which, if Michigan's schedule is so strong, Ohio State's schedule would be the next best, right?
So I guess my point is, I think Florida State's number 4 in that scenario. The only reason Texas jumped Florida State is because they thought Alabama had to.
Yeah.
Which is even more bothersome.
And listen, I've been pretty vocally anti-Alabama on Facebook. I've been pretty anti-Alabama here on this show before. But if you listen to my podcast, I'm okay with Bama being in.
Yeah.
And I was okay with Texas being left out in that scenario, like 100%, because how do you jump from number 7 over an undefeated conference champion you have one loss, by the way, and this is talking about Texas, after beating the number 18 ranked team.
They had a worse win in the conference championship than Florida State did, other than they put up more points. Their win or their loss was worse than anybody's who was even being considered for the playoff. Their loss to Oklahoma, rank-wise, was worse than anybody's.
Right.
And so I don't know, but let's get back to the phone lines here. Stan is in Panama City on the porch. That sounds like a good place to be. Stan, go right ahead.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Doing great, man.
Okay, I'm a first-time caller, so just bear with me.
Go ahead.
Do you know what happened in 2000?
Oh, good Lord, 2000. I remember 2004.
Okay,
I remember the issue with Auburn.
This guy's a Miami fan.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So in 2000, Miami was 11-1. Florida State was 11-1. Miami was in the Big East. Florida State was in the ACC. Miami beat Florida State that year. The only loss we had was to Washington.
That's right.
And guess who got put out? There was only two teams that could go. It was Oklahoma and Florida State went, but Miami had beat Florida State that year.
Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So now FSU fans conveniently forget that part.
Yeah, I forgot something that happened when I was 7 years old. I appreciate that call, Stan. Listen,
let's get back into history.
I wish I was 7. I was not.
Here's what you need to understand.
But that is one of the reasons why they went to a 14.
I think that in 2004, when an undefeated Auburn got left out, I agree. I think that started laying the groundwork to expand.
Yeah,
certainly.
But there again, that other caller that said somebody's always going to get left out. It's all about the money. Follow the money.
You know, and that's true. I think what's interesting because obviously everybody's, at least on the Florida State side, upset about the way things went. I think one thing that maybe we're missing for the last God knows how many years, we've really been talking about a situation where it seems like there's only 2 teams who can win, and we're struggling to get a third or a fourth team in there. This year, we had a lot of teams, I thought, that could have played for this. I mean, quite frankly, think about this. 5 through 8 might make as interesting a playoff as 1 through 4.
Yeah.
You've got Georgia, you've got Florida State, you've got Ohio State, and you've got Oregon.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Oregon has 2 losses now, but 2 3-point losses to the number 2 team in the country.
Right.
I'm not sure that's not as good. So for the first time, and I can remember how long, we're actually talking about 8 teams that are at least 7 who feel worthy.
And maybe that's why maybe that's a big motivation to why they did this, right? Like to build that anticipation for next year, the promise of this is never going to happen again. Maybe that's a little bit of why this happened. Stan, I assume are you a Miami fan?
Yeah, I'm a Miami fan.
So let me hit you with this, and I'm not going to talk smack about Miami and your bad boy Mowers Bowl. That's in the middle of a day in New York City. I could take that road.
It is what it is, but we can't talk about Willie Taggart either. So.
No, exactly. So we could take that road if we wanted to, but we're not going to do that today.
I'm just saying that's what happened in 2000.
Absolutely,
So
Stan.
don't think it's not ever happened before.
No, that's true.
And it's going to happen again, and it will happen again.
Stan, I was finger painting.
History repeats itself.
Stan, I was finger painting in 2000. But let me tell you about today. Here's the problem and you have to realize this too, and I know there's other Miami fans that are out there listening. I know there's Clemson fans that are out there listening. You have to understand what this does to our conference. Until we can all join hands and look at the ACC and go, this has to end now. You add Stanford and Cal. How does that help our case, right?
Right.
So until those guys can join hands and leave together, whether they go to the same conference, whether they all leave to different destinations, I don't know. But you have to think about what this can do, because now think about this, man. And this is something that nobody's talking about, how this could destroy Florida State's football program. This could be the end of Florida State's football program, because now if you're looking at it, if you're on the recruiting trail, if you're an opposing head coach on the recruiting trail, you could look at these kids and go, you can go there and be perfect, but you're not going to play for a title. And rightfully so. Yeah. That's something that they can weaponize and that can be used. And now they can say that not only about Florida State, they can say that about Miami, they can say that about Clemson, they can say that about North Carolina, Louisville, whoever they want.
Yeah. The only thing that
well, like you said, at the end of the day, it's a business.
That's right. Stan, I appreciate
that's where it goes. Yeah,
sorry, brother, we're heading to a break. Thank you for the call. You did great on your first time call.
Thank you,
I appreciate it, man. The only thing that might hinder that would be the 12, but again, it might play out for other ACC teams. I think your point is well taken. Speaking of that, man, we're going to go on to this. We're going to keep going and keep going and keep going. Again, phone lines are open, although they've been crowded today. Give us a call. Tell us what you think about it. We're talking playoffs here on the Afternoon Underdogs, ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
Let's cut through all the BS. Don't be pissed off at Alabama.
That's how I would have put it.
The ones you should be mad at.
There's going to be some meat going around, too. I'm going to tell you, we ain't losing. I don't think we're going to lose him. I think Bauer's going to stay. But
you got 13-0 Watson, number 2. Why is FSU 13-0?
Weekday morning, 7 to 9. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Golf is a game that should be fun, but to have the most fun, you need to play your best. That's where the experts at Golf Plus come in. Their friendly staff will guide you through the buying process, answer all your questions, and can help with any repairs you need along the way. Golf Plus is your custom fitting, club repair, and golf retail shop. Golf Plus staff is non-commissioned and will work with you to find the best product for your game, just like they've been doing since 1988. Golf Plus in Dothan and Panama City Beach. Fitting, repair, retail. That's Golf Plus.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
Often imitated, never duplicated. The official sports station of the Panhandle. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And welcome back to the Afternoon Underdogs here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Brian Haddad sitting in for David today. Kyle Wright joining me. Bone Crusher spinning the tunes and answering the phones. Bone Crusher, you earning your check today. I'm telling you, you got a lot of work going on back there.
You got that right.
Well, look, I don't want to neglect. I mean, we've got messages coming through text line and through Facebook. There's one that is a great point, and it's something I definitely want to talk about before we get back to the phone lines. Kyle, read this out for me.
Yeah, this came from Joshua Mitchell on Facebook, and he says, I want to hear you speak on what this does to the youth. I'm talking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on, age to the youth. He says, you are now teaching that winning doesn't matter. Going undefeated and having a perfect season doesn't matter. Playing hard your entire life, finally getting to that moment, and the world rips it from you. It's disgusting. Make this make sense.
You know, I'm glad that you brought that up because this is something that's bothered me. Look, I coached for 30 years. I didn't coach big-time college football, but I've been a coach. And the one thing that you always go back to as a coach is the games have to matter. You know, that's what you do. You compete. And you don't want this decided in a boardroom. You want it decided on the field, in the pool, in the whatever you're doing. And the thing that's bothered me the most about this is exactly that point. It's, what are we saying? Look, the NCAA tournament is extremely popular. 64 teams get in. I'm willing to bet you more years than not, the best team, if you will, doesn't win. But it's decided on the court.
Right.
Okay? When the committee comes out and says, our job is to put in the best 4 teams. No, your actual original job is to create or select the national champion. That's what you're doing. And that has to be decided on the field. When you have a situation where you have 2 teams with 1 loss, okay, now you have to debate and look at things, whatever. If you have a Power 5 team, look, I've been a champion of Cincinnati and TCU the last couple of years because I think what happens on the field matters. This is the most striking version of that because you got a Power 5 champion who played 2 SEC teams, neither at home, by the way.
Right.
In non-conference play, played Clemson on the road. I mean, these are tough things to do. Let me pivot to this one part, and then I want to get to the phones again. And this is going to be a bit of a stretch, but it really made me think about it. When I was 13 or 14 years old, baseball was my life. It's still what I know the most, love the most, as much as I talk about football. But I'll tell you, we were playing whatever, Babe Ruth League, I think it was called, or something like that. We had a situation where people were trying to weaponize rules against, I mean, we're talking 13, 14-year-old kids, and they dragged it on. We won the district. We're going on to the national tournament. My park did, and they ended up doing some kind of legislative appeal or this, that, or the other. We ended up not getting to go, even though we won every game that was put in front of us. We didn't cheat. We didn't do anything like that. It was some kind of administrative error or something with paperwork. And you know what happened after that? I never played baseball again. That's what happens to youth when you take away the fact that going out and what you do on the field doesn't matter when things get decided in boardrooms. Yep. It's why I've never been a fan of this committee. I would rather a computer than this committee. It's always bothered me.
Which, if you look at the BCS thing, right? If you look at the way the BCS would have had this, Florida State would have been number 4.
Right.
Alabama would have been number 3. I said I would have had Florida State 3, Alabama 4, just because of the loss.
Right.
But there's more of a case for that than there is this nonsense.
Sure. So, again, it just made me remember that, look, I still love baseball, but I never wanted to play it again after that. And that was at 13 or 14 years old. Because, like I said, it wasn't decided on the field by us. It was decided by some parents in a boardroom somewhere, which is, you just never want that in sports. Let's get back to the phones. Travis has one more thing for us. I bet it's more than one, but we're going back to you anyway. Travis, what you got, buddy?
Well, it is actually one thing.
Okay.
So this time.
There you go.
So, and I don't know if y'all had talked about this yet or not, but another thing I feel bad for Florida State with is the recruiting.
Yeah.
I mean, because who wants, and I heard this earlier, and it resonated with me because I really, I was like, yeah, that's true. Because what kind of recruits right now are thinking, man, why would I want to go to a school that can do everything they can and still get bullied and pushed out of the big game? I mean, I think it's bad for recruiting, and it's unfortunately not their fault.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's certainly something to consider. I mean, as distasteful as that sounds for people who like FSU or just want a level playing field, it certainly is problematic because, look, if we're talking about it, players are, and coaches are recruiting with it, so you're right.
And how does Mike Norvell, and this is all coming from a Gator, but how does Mike Norvell, defend that? Like,
sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that just happens.
Yeah.
That's all he can say because, at the end of the day, they were snubbed.
Well, and the funny thing is, we heard this earlier, too. Look, if Florida State goes down and loses to Georgia, everybody's going to say, see, they made the right pick. And that's pointless.
And what happens if Florida State beats Georgia, though,
right.
Brian?
I'll be honest, even that's pointless.
Georgia didn't want to be there anyway.
Right. That game's not going to have any bearing on it, but people are going to use it for their own means. The bottom line is, I think Florida State should have been in. Now, they didn't put me in the room. They put some adjunct professor of journalism in there and a couple of ex-players and a couple of moron athletic directors and, probably a secretary of state or whatever when Condoleezza used to be in there. There's not I don't know. I'm not going down that road anymore.
Yeah,
what else you got, Travis?
I was going to count Georgia against them, but I'm not now. But I will count them for them.
Yeah.
Like if Florida State wins, it's going to change my mind completely. Completely. Okay. Because right now, I'd like to see Florida State in there, but I just can't see where the room is with the, and that's sad to say, but because they're undefeated. But as I said, I just can't see it. Yeah. If it came down to if they beat Georgia, I'm going to be like, oh, wow. Yeah, maybe there was room, and they just really screwed up.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Travis. Thanks, man. We got to get back to the lines here soon and talk about a little more of this, but always love hearing from you, buddy.
Travis said, I have to finish the story.
No, he's right. Yeah, finish the story. There we go. More WWE for us. Look, I feel like I need to remind people of this. I'm a huge Alabama fan. Have been my entire life. I just don't feel good about this. I just don't. I mean, am I happy they're getting a chance to play? Yeah. Do I like this team? No, I didn't think this team was going to be there. I didn't think this team was going to be in Atlanta. I love that they went out and beat Georgia. Tremendous game to watch. I mean, I think what's been lost is we had some pretty good football. Yeah. I mean, Saturday night weren't the two best games in the world.
Right.
But before that, we had some tremendous football, and it's kind of been lost in this. And again, the story gets into what 13 people in a room did instead of what happened on the field.
Yeah, I think that's probably the sickest part of it is if you look at those 13 people, I think they only like 3 of them played football.
Sure.
And a lot of those dudes were just, I mean, I hate to say this like this, and especially knocking politics, right? Knocking the politics of it all. These are old, rich white dudes that are just looking for more money, right? Well, that have never played a snap of football in their lives.
It's true. I mean, what you and I were laughing about in the break is, you know, all the politicians are coming out of the woodworks now. I think Trump had a thing, which was a dig at DeSantis.
Oh, the sanctimonious.
Yeah, Rick Scott's had stuff. Jimmy Petronis had stuff. Look, if there is one group of people, and there might only be one group of people, I want dealing with this less than the committee, it's politicians.
No, I couldn't agree more.
But you're right, it is very political. Let me pivot to this, because I want your take on this.
Okay.
Obviously, 99% of what we're going to talk about is the Florida State factor. I want to pivot away from that. Florida State, obviously, the biggest loser yesterday.
Of course.
In the way it worked out.
Of course.
The second biggest loser yesterday, I think, is Michigan. Because I think, look, if you're Michigan, let's say the way I think it would have happened, Texas would have been 4. I'd have rather played Texas and Alabama. If Florida State had been 4, nothing against Florida State, I'd rather play Florida State with Tate Rodemaker than I would play Alabama right now.
Yeah.
Michigan gets Alabama now. They can't be that thrilled. I mean, if Georgia would have won, Michigan would have got Washington. Every scenario for Michigan was probably better than what they ended up getting, even though they're now the number 1 team in the country. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that this might be a little side-slatted way of maybe punishing Michigan a little bit. Yeah. Which, by the way, I know we're trying to avoid the Florida State conversation, but I don't know how you could look at a team like Michigan, who is literally in the middle of a massive cheating scandal, right?
Sure.
And this is unsettled.
Sure.
This is unsettled business to this point, to this day. But I don't know how you could look at that as look at Florida State's injury as a bigger black eye to the playoff as you would that. Mm-hmm. But no, I hope Michigan gets what they deserve. 100%. Like I thought, and this is. I'm taking my goggles off. I'm taking my biased goggles off here, and I'm looking at this from a college football fan's perspective. I'm looking at Michigan's schedule, and I'm putting it side by side with Florida State. I'm looking at Penn State, who had some really bad games this year. They lost to Ohio State and Michigan easily. Yeah. In typical Penn State fashion, we do this with them every year. They're the Ole Miss of the Big Ten, right? We do this with them every year. They're going to go 9-3, 10-2, but they're not going to beat anybody that they're supposed to beat. And I look at that schedule and I line it up. The only team they beat was Ohio State, and they beat them in the Big House.
Mm-hmm. Good win.
Good win, absolutely. But I think that you can look at that and you can say, well, damn, not only should Florida State be in, you could almost line it up to go Washington 1, Florida State 2, Michigan 3, and then your number 4 team. So I just don't understand the whole Michigan thing. I hope Alabama beats them, because I'm not against Alabama being in. I want to say that again. I'm okay with Bama being in.
Let's play this quick hypothetical. Despite the clip that you played earlier, let's say that didn't exist in this world.
Okay.
And Jordan Travis doesn't get injured. Florida State boat races Louisville. Where do you think they're ranked?
Number 5. I think this was always.
So too?
I think this was always the plan, and that's the point. That was the point of that clip. This was always going to happen.
All right. Let's get back out on the beach, Panama City Beach, and we're going to talk to Grant. Grant wants to chime in about Michigan. Go ahead, Grant.
Hey, Brian. How's it going, buddy?
It's going good, man.
I know you would tell your swimmers, try and make them feel better, but in the back of your mind, you know this was wrong.
Yeah.
About Michigan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they cheated. They cheated all season. You can't really assess their talent or their record or how they do. Secondly, the Big Ten is just really weak. They didn't play anybody outside the Big Ten that had any reputation.
Yep.
So having them won and having them in at all, I think, is as big of an issue, probably even bigger than Alabama being in.
I think you may be right. I mean, obviously the hard part is it's not going to be adjudicated before it goes on, but what if it comes out that everything that they did is found to be true? And I mean, are we going to vacate after the fact? That doesn't help Jared Verse and the rest of the Florida State guys who came back for this. So I think your point's well taken, Grant, and it's good to hear from you. I'm glad to know that you're listening out there.
I am listening. I always listen when you're on, Brian.
I appreciate that.
One more thing about the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I think Michigan's really slow. As I watched that Iowa game, Iowa couldn't cover their receivers. They'd leave them open. That is not going to happen against Alabama.
I think you're right.
They're not going to have anywhere to throw to, and then they're going to stack the box. And Michigan's not going to have any offense because they're just slow.
Yeah. I think you're right, Grant. Appreciate the call. We're heading into the top of the hour break, but always good to hear from you. Grant, I used to coach both of Grant's daughters there at Swim. Always good to hear from him and good to hear that he's listening out there. Good takes, too.
Yeah, I love it, man.
All right, we're heading to the top of the hour break here. When we come back, we're going to have Steve Barnes come in and join us like he does every Monday from the rebelwalk.com. I'm curious what Steve's take on this whole thing is, but we have to wait and come back and see what that is. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Start your morning with sports updates, interviews, reactions, lively discussions, insights, and expert analysis.
I think in our lifetime, we will never see another undefeated team.
Join Evan, Canty, and Michelle weekday mornings from 5 to 7.
It will never happen again.
On the Sports Talk Monster.
If anyone deserves the benefit of the doubt for one last chance, it's Bill Belichick.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Monday's weather. The rest of the day, there will be a gentle breeze out of the west-northwest, some clouds and 70. Partly cloudy skies tonight, colder at 51. Tomorrow, partly cloudy and a light breeze right around 7 miles per hour with a high of 61. About the same at 56 Wednesday, and we'll have mostly sunshine. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumberyard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hello, this is Rick Vossen with RV of Panama City, your local Stormore portable building dealer, located at 2241 East Baldwin Road. Shopping for a garage, portable building, cabin? We build them anywhere from 8 to 16 foot wide, 10 feet to 60 feet long. We can do insulation, electricity, transom dormers, thermal windows. Come, let's customize a building together. Rick Vossen, Stormore Portable Building Dealer, Panama City.
The Panhandle's destination for live play-by-play.
Living GSX Lynn Aiden, WVLQ Port St. John, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Are you tired of hearing 2 weeks when you call to get your boat worked on? Hey folks, it's Chris Kramer with Kramer Marine and Outdoor, and we'll get you in and back out on the water as quick as possible. We're a full-line Yamaha outboard dealer and Suzuki outboard dealer, and we have master-trained certified mechanics on site. So if it's just an annual service, electronics install, trolling motor install, or all the way up to a full repower, we can take care of you. So stop by and see us in the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd next to Bill Kramer GM, or call us at 850-851-0453.
They said it couldn't be done. The Afternoon Underdogs are live.
They say it can't be done.
Are we going to do what they say can't be done?
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back, Afternoon Underdogs. Brian Haddad sitting in for Dave today. We are back at the top of the hour, and in just a moment, we're going to get to Steve Barnes with the rebelwalk.com. But really quickly first, we're going to go to the phone lines and talk to Furman. Furman, what you got for us today?
I just wanted to call and make a comment real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Big Gator fan here. Florida State got robbed. I don't need to explain the reasons why, but I think what would be awesome, if I was a Florida State fan, I would have been contacting everyone immediately. Florida State fans should buy all the tickets to the national championship game, go and just do the war chant the entire time. That would make for some great television.
That is the first time I've heard that, and I like it. I think that's a great idea.
You guys have fun.
Appreciate the call, Furman. I love that one. I'm writing that one down.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I've heard the show up to the game and protest it thing.
Yeah.
Like I've heard the go to wherever game day is next year and just throw donuts at Herb Street. This is it's outlandish, man. Let's get down to the business.
Let's do it. Well, it's Monday. It's 5 p.m. and that means we are talking to the man himself, Steve Barnes, the rebelwalk.com. You need to be checking out Steve. Wonderful, wonderful articles over there. Even though he is an Ole Miss guy, but I let that go. Steve. Brian sitting in for David today, man. I'm holding down the fort. Good to talk to you today. What's going on?
Look at you sitting in the big boy chair.
Man, they'll let anybody in here apparently. So, how you doing today, Steve?
Oh, just in a love-hate relationship with the Bulls.
Yeah.
But other than that, hey, just another Monday.
Well, let's obviously start with, for lack of a better term here, the elephant in the room. What's your take on what they did with the playoff committee and getting Alabama and Texas in and Florida State out?
I think Florida State deserved to be there. I think Alabama deserved to be out. But then again, I think that one of the best bowl games is going to be Alabama against Michigan.
Yeah,
I think Bama's going to beat them.
Interesting. Well, carry that forward then. Alabama beats Michigan. Who do you have winning the other game? And then maybe who do you think? I mean, it's a long way out, but who do you have winning it all?
I still like Washington, but I can see Alabama winning it all.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the best games to me, I mean, I think the Fiesta Bowl with Liberty against Oregon, because Oregon's going to have the bunch of opt-outs.
Well, and they actually have noted, though, that Bo Nix says, now again, it's early, but Bo Nix has said he intends to play that game, so.
Well, I think they're going to lose a few.
They are going to lose some other players, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think they're going to lose some other ones. So I still like the Peach Bowl, the Ole Miss and Penn State, simply because, believe it or not, Ole Miss and Penn State been around forever. They've never played.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? I saw that, too.
That's just kind of weird to me.
Steve, I don't know if you were listening a few minutes ago, but I went on this whole anti-Penn State tangent, and I called them, and this is crazy to say to you, but I called them the Ole Miss of the Big Ten, right, where they're just good enough every year, but they can never get the big wins, right, to get over that hump. And, like, this is the most comparable two teams, like the most comparable matchup of all time.
They're like the number threes.
Yeah, it's like, you know, who are the two losses Ole Miss has this year? Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah.
Who does Penn State have? Ohio State and Michigan.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense. But you know, every now and then that happens.
Well, speaking of the bowls, obviously that Ole Miss Penn State game in the Peach Bowl interests me a lot. A lot of talk, obviously, about Georgia, Florida State. Of course, we don't know who's going to play in there in totally different circumstances than we hoped that game would be. But what's maybe another game out there that you kind of got your – I mean, you already mentioned Liberty, Oregon, but is there another game out there that kind of caught your eye in the 8,000 bowl games that they have?
I kind of like the Gator Bowl, like Clemson and Kentucky.
Yeah.
It's the mediocre bowl, but which one's going to step up?
Sure.
The Duke's Mayo Bowl. By the way, my favorite mayonnaise, if you have to know it. North Carolina and West Virginia, that's not going to be bad.
Yeah.
And the Birmingham Bowl, Troy gets to play Duke. And, well, Troy basically got an SEC slot.
Yeah, because usually an SEC team does go there. You're right.
And, well, two shout-outs to Troy for winning the conference championship last week. Kamani Vidal became the first person to ever rush for 5 touchdowns in a conference championship game in the FBS. That's pretty impressive. And their quarterback, Gunnar Watson, he is one of just a handful of 6-year quarterbacks using that COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one that used all 6 at the same school.
How about that?
So, and, you know, he's just one of those guys who's like, no, I committed here. I'm staying here. You got to respect a kid like that.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to have a, NFL, really career.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm a GM, I bring him to camp just to say, hey, look, this kid is committed. I want him here.
Right.
Now there's some really, like I said, I had a love-hate relationship. There's some really bad bowl games, I think. The first one's Florida State, Georgia.
Yeah.
Who do you even know is going to show up?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, here's where you're going to find out which coaches earn their money, because you got to get 2 dejected teams up to play a good football game. You know, both of these teams are down in the dumps thinking they should have been in the playoffs. I mean,
And I want to, Steve, and this is, I'm sure you know I'm an FSU fan, but if this whole rhetoric, right, is on the best 4 teams, then why is Georgia not above Florida State at this point? Why, Georgia should be number 4, right?
Because Cummings is a sham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, exactly.
How do you drop them from number 1 to number 6?
That's it. 1 to 6. It's never happened before.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
I mean, you could have thrown Liberty in there. They're undefeated.
Yeah.
Why don't you have them in the top 10? No, they're like number 22.
Talking with Steve Barnes, therebelwalk.com. I want to pivot back to Troy very quickly, Steve. Coach Sumrall, I was a little worried about him. Blew kind of a gasket there on the sideline during the game. Certainly heated and fired up. But number 1, what in the world was that all about? And number 2, obviously a lot of people come and calling, it's silly season. Coaches are starting to make moves. What do you hear about Sumrall? Will he be back or will he be moving on somewhere?
Well, the first thing, he was, it was a terrible call by the referees, but you have to give all the credit to that get back coach.
Yeah.
That guy, he earned his money. and I've met John a couple times.
Yeah.
He's a former linebacker in the SEC at Kentucky.
Right.
He's not a small man. So to hold him back, that was pretty impressive. And let's face it, Sumrall made a couple of fake moves, just like, okay, I'm done. No, I'm going back.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And the get back coach is kind of like, nope, no, you're not.
Yeah,
you're not.
Kudos to the belt maker as well. It held up.
Golly. But I don't know. That could have been Don Wilson's Western Wear Leather Shop in Troy, Alabama, or it could have been something else. But that thing held up, didn't it?
Yeah. So what's the word? Do you think Sumrall's back at Troy, or do you think somebody snaps him up?
I think he's back at Troy for one more year.
Good.
He's got another team coming back. He knows he does. And, I hate to say it, I think he wants a Kentucky job.
Yeah.
And if Stoops had left this year, I think Kentucky would have had their choice of Sumrall at Troy or Neil Brown at West Virginia. They both played there.
Right.
One's an offensive guy, one's a defensive guy. They would have had their choice. Now that Neil has gotten West Virginia into a bowl game this year, finally, I think he's safe for another year. If Stoops finally decides to hang it up, I think Sumrall could go to Kentucky.
Interesting. Staying on the coaching front, 1 year ago, Willie Fritz said he and his wife were going to retire at Tulane, and 1 year later, obviously the Houston. Now, we know how this goes, and he may have taken it a little further than most do with the coach speak, but obviously an opportunity presented itself at Houston, and he took it. But he's 4 or 5 hours down the road. What'd you think about Willie Fritz taking the Houston job?
Gee, you really think a coach would not tell the truth about another job?
Yeah, I'm reminded of the old pine box line up in Oxford many years ago.
Or the Christmas tree out by the road in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Tommy T, who's a congressman from Alabama who lives in Santa Rosa Beach.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I really respect everything he says. But, no, that didn't shock me. The thing that shocked me about Fritz was he didn't get a bigger sniff from Mississippi State.
Yeah, the speed at which they moved with Lebby surprised, not the hire, but the speed at which it took form surprised me a little bit. And look, I understand schools get scared. They get scared. You have to have someone in place for recruiting. There's a whole lot of fear out there, but I was a little surprised they didn't bring in a few more people. I think they wanted to talk to Lashley. I don't know if they had buttoned him up at SMU by then or not. Fritz certainly was on the radar. Who knows how real the Mullen thing was. I'm a little surprised Manny Diaz's name didn't come into play a little bit, but they certainly moved quick with Lebby, and I think you're right. I think, maybe with Willie, he kind of felt like he needed to jump on. And look, Houston has potential. They really do. Holgerson, I was a little surprised he didn't get it done better.
The whole thing about Houston is it's still going to be a basketball school.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I hate to say that about Houston because, I mean, I love Spice Slamma Jamma, but I should love Andre Ware, too, throwing it for, 1,000 yards a game.
Oh, yeah. Houston football used to outscore Houston basketball.
Oh, yeah. And I actually wrote a column, I guess it was like 5 years ago, where it might have been Kiffin's first year or the last year of Matt Luke, where the Ole Miss offense was averaging more points than the Ole Miss basketball team was.
No doubt. Well, the other story in college football, obviously it's hard to get past Florida State and everything, the bowls out there, but Steve, since whatever time this morning, more than 1,000 players have entered the transfer portal just today. There are already over 2,100 in there since November the 26th. I want to get a general sense of what your take is on the players you've seen enter the portal so far. And then before that, real quickly, we just talked about Jeff Lebby coming from Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel has entered the portal now. Do we think Dylan Gabriel to Mississippi State is a possibility?
That's a great possibility, but he's a West Coast kid.
Right.
He started in Orlando, then he went to Norman. With DJ leaving Oregon State, I could see him going back over there.
Interesting. UCLA, I think, has an opening as well.
Well, everybody does, I think.
Isn't that the truth?
I mean, it's like, everybody's saying, Florida State couldn't win with a third-string quarterback. Okay. Name me 3 teams that could.
Yeah.
I can name 2. Okay. I could name Texas because I think Arch Manning could probably win.
Mm-hmm.
And Ole Miss.
I think Ole Miss could. Right, I agree.
And I think that's the only 2. So if this kid, wants to go to Oregon State or, if he wants to go back to Hawaii for even, I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, that's true.
That's a good move for him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't mind going home to Hawaii. That might be all right. But look, I love Starkville, but Hawaii or Starkville, I don't know.
Yeah, Honolulu, Stark Vegas. Let me flip a coin.
I mean, but look at this. To your point, it was a great point. Who isn't looking right now? Let me just run this quick. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback, Oklahoma. DJ Uiagalelei, Oregon State, quarterback. Grayson McCall, Coastal Carolina. Riley Leonard, Duke. Kyle McCord, Ohio State. Cam Ward, Washington State. Brock Vandegrift was the backup at Georgia. Tyler Van Dyke, Miami. Bryson Barnes, who played 7 games for Utah this year. Dante Moore, UCLA. Will Howard, Kansas State. Will Rogers, Mississippi State. Only Vandegrift wasn't the starter of the majority of the games this year.
Yeah.
And those are big schools. These guys are all in the portal, and we're just today.
Vandegrift's a 5-star, by the way, right? Former 5-star.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something else, Steve.
If I had my choice of any of those quarterbacks, I'd take Will Rogers.
Yeah. I think Rogers has to be in the right system, but extremely accurate, durable, veteran. Yeah.
I think that Levy's there. That's the right system for you.
See, I think so too.
Stay at State.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he will. I think he might go out west to the Pac-12 or Pac. What is going to be Pac-2?
Hey, yeah. Well, it's funny, Steve. I think we may have talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I heard very strong stuff out of Starkville and Auburn last year that Will Rogers was very strongly linked with a move to Auburn last year. I think obviously the situation with Coach Leach and Arnett taking over, I don't know that Rogers wanted to leave the team in that deal. So I heard it last year, and I've heard it got really close to happening. I'm hearing it again this year. I don't know that Will Rogers fits Hugh Freeze all that terribly well. I'm with you. I think him with Jeff Lebby would be a great situation.
I think he should stay, but, I mean, him going to Auburn, well, first you're transferring within the division.
Right.
And you don't see that very often.
Right.
But, I mean, if I'm him, I want to get out of the SEC. I want to go to the Big Ten. I want to go to the Big 12. I want to go out west. So, well, let's face it, the Big Ten is out west now. So.
Yeah, and the ACC's out west as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if anything, if Dylan Gabriel left Oklahoma, which he says he's going to do, I can see Rogers fitting in at Oklahoma.
Yeah. I know they have a kid there, a 5-star they brought in, Jackson Arnold, I think, who they're high on. But again, you never know.
Well, Ole Miss brought in
a
5-star, and they brought in a 4-year starter. And guess what? They couldn't oust the incumbent.
That's right.
So, you could say, okay, we got this guy, but you can come in and compete. And if you listen to Spencer Sanders or the other quarterback, Howard, they said all we were promised was a chance to compete.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't like, you come here, you're going to be a starter.
Absolutely.
So, I like that. It's like, you come here, if you work hard, you got a shot.
Steve, I know you pay attention to a lot outside of Ole Miss as well, and Florida State is amongst one of the teams looking for a transfer quarterback next year, and whether that's been confirmed or not, in my opinion, they need a bridge gapper. It's obvious that Brock Glenn needs maybe another year or less. He obviously needs a lot more development, and they have 5-star Luke Kromenhoek coming in next year, but they need somebody to bridge that gap. And you've heard the Cam Ward from Washington State, you've heard DJ Uyunglele from Oregon State. Which one of those guys, or maybe even Will Rogers, do you think any of those guys fit better than the other in Florida State?
I sort of like Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah. I can see a gunslinger, runner.
The kid can he can fling the ball all over the place. He's kind of like Patrick Mahomes. He throws the ball at all different angles, and nobody seems to know what that angle is, including him.
It's a lefty.
Yeah. No, it's true. But I think he suffered from, he got the back end of the UCF run. Obviously, it wasn't as successful as what Milton had. Goes to Oklahoma, gets injured early last year, and no one expected a whole lot out of him. Got to see him in the Texas win, but I'm not sure the general public has seen Dylan Gabriel the way that they should to know just how good he is.
Yeah.
That just means he's motivated.
There you go. Well, Steve,
now, Will Rogers there would be interesting. But DJ leaving Oklahoma or Oregon State to go back to the ACC, wow, would that be a storyline or what?
That would certainly be interesting. Steve, I hate it, man. We are out of time. I always appreciate talking with you on a Monday.
You look good in the big boy seat.
Well, thank you. We jacked it up a little bit so I didn't look so short. Appreciate you as always, Steve. Guys, if you're not following Steve, go out and check out therebelwalk.com. Great stuff there. The man himself, Steve Barnes. Appreciate it, Steve.
Talk to y'all soon.
All right.
So, before you go to the break, that's it for me for today.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I just want to say, I appreciate you having me today. I'm glad we were able to make this happen.
I'm glad we had the 7-second delay. We were good. Didn't need it. That's
didn't need it. That's good. We don't have a dump button here anyway, so it would have just been Randy coming in here and hitting me with a right hook. But, man, I enjoyed this today. And, to everybody that called, interacted, Facebook, text.
Oh, absolutely.
Man, thank you guys for that. And, it's go Noles till the end.
There you go. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah. Appreciate it, Kyle, as always. Guys, coming up next, we've got the man in the building himself. The PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd is next. We'll be taking your questions on anything to do with sports cards, coins, comics, TCGs. Todd's coming up next. Afternoon Underdogs, ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Dan Patrick Show. I didn't do a deep dive on this. I just felt like the NBA was saying, damn it, you're going to love the NBA early before it gets to Christmas, because Christmas is when we start to watch NBA basketball. This commissioner was like, you're going to watch. We're going to make sure you watch. All right. It's not like I'm on the edge of my seat.
It's the Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings from 9 till 11. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good evening. This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida. For tonight, partly cloudy and a low of 49 with wind 5 to 10 miles per hour out of the north. Some sun tomorrow morning, a gentle breeze and warm near 59. Partly cloudy and 62 in the afternoon and evening. 58 and mostly sunshine with a moderate breeze Wednesday. Thursday, mostly sunshine and a temperature about the same at 56. This is your Monday's weather brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
If you spend any time at all in your yard, you're going to encounter fire ants.
We know they can ruin a party. That's why we're this area's experts at fire ant elimination.
As your certified top choice professional, we will rid your yard of these unwanted invaders. Brock Pest is so sure they'll get rid of fire ants that they offer a 1-year guarantee.
Enjoy your yard fire ant free. We guarantee it. Give us a call for your free consultation.
Brock Lawn and Pest Control, our family protecting yours since 1968.
Hey folks, Chris Kramer with Bill Kramer GM. And the best place to listen to the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey is inside a brand new vehicle from Bill Kramer GM. And I want you to know we've got 10 times the amount of inventory on the ground as we did this time last year, and darn near all of them are discounted. So shop us online at BillKramerGM.com or visit us the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd. We'll make it easy and take great care of you.
From the pros to the future pros, we're your home team station for home team sports. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Nothing but a good time. I like it. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes today on the Afternoon Underdogs. Want to thank Kyle Wright again for sitting in with us. Kyle had to hit the road, but did a wonderful job here. Obviously, topic of the day has been the playoff in Florida State, but right now we get to pivot into the fun that we always have Monday at 5:20, and that is the PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Captain Todd's in the building. What's going on, man?
How's it going, everybody? Good to be here on a Monday, as always. Appreciate everybody who's listening. We have all kinds of stuff going on that we want to talk about today. Mainly, I want to start with our renovations.
Yes.
Renovations are going great. In fact, we could be in the new space as soon as the beginning of next week.
Ooh.
So, our plan is to have the space pretty much finished off on the right-hand side, which is right underneath the new sign. If you haven't gone by and seen the new sign lit up at night, you need to.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty evident where we're located now. And you need to come by and take a look next week. We will be in that side of the building. We'll have moved everything, and it'll be pretty great. So we're super excited about that. And then, of course, we'll renovate the other side, too. So, yeah, everything's going good with that. We're super excited. Lots of new products going to be coming out. Lots of new things we're going to be organizing. I do want to let everybody know specifically, I do have some announcements about that.
Okay.
We are going to wrap the comics up fairly quickly this week, and we will not be displaying comics for probably about 30 days.
Okay.
So I just want everybody to be clear. If you're coming in looking for the new issues, new stuff, it's going to be a little dicey at first, but we'll get it reorganized and we'll get it out there.
We're just moving everything over, and obviously,
right now we're just going to move everything over and not put it up immediately for the comic side of things. The coins are going to be in a little bit of a disarray as well, because they are going to stay on the side that we're going to be renovating,
right,
which we are currently in, and in stating so, they are going to be taken off the floor and not be on the new side immediately. So we'll still try to help you. Mm-hmm. We'll still have access to everything. It just is not going to be day one like the sports cards and TCGs are going to.
Pardon our progress.
Right, pardon our progress, basically. That's it. So I just want to let everybody know that's going on. Again, tonight, if you check out PCBHobby.com, It has our calendar of events on it. I believe tonight is Lorcana.
Correct.
And then I can't remember what we do tomorrow night. Again, it's on the calendar. So just go check it out. It's probably One Piece or something like that. And then Wednesday, I know we're still doing Pokemon. And, of course, we're still going to do Friday night Magic and all that stuff. We are still going to have all of our events this week. Nothing's changing. And starting next week, if we do get moved, which we should be moved Monday, we will be having the events in the new space. So we will have a couple tables set up. We'll still be doing our events and all that type of stuff. So look for that. Yep. And so we're pretty excited about that. It's going to be pretty awesome. Also, this Saturday is the second Saturday of the month, so it is Super Saturday again. That means trade day. That means coming in, buy, sell, trade, collect, play, do whatever you do. Come in and have fun. We're going to do a lot of good stuff. I believe our Black Friday Cyber Week deals are over, I think. I think they are over, but we are starting something new, and I'm going to let Brian talk about that for a second.
Well, I believe it starts probably coming right out of this. Of course, you'll have the wheel going as well this week, as always do on Super Saturday. But I think coming out of that on Monday starts the 12 Days of Christmas sale.
That's
where there's going to be a new highlighted product every single day leading up to, I think, the 23rd. Obviously, going to be closed on the 24th and 25th.
Yep,
but,
exactly.
But we'll have that, absolutely. So I just want to remind everybody, if you have a question for Todd, anything related to hobby, make sure you can give us a call at 215-6290. You can text us. You can send in a Facebook message, anything like that. We would love to answer those. Over on the sports card front, obviously, college football's taken up so much of the talk now. Bowman University being licensed college product is a huge deal, but there's a lot of sports going on right now. Football season's starting to enter that final stretch to the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Basketball's going again. Hockey's going again. Baseball may be over, but awards season are going. Winter meetings are going. It's kind of an exciting time for sports cards, isn't it?
Oh, it's crazy. We got all kinds of stuff going on. I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. I know a lot of times I get on here and say all the new products and this and that, but I actually want to bring up a couple things. One, I did want to bring up about Alabama getting in. I'm sure you guys have talked about it. I'm sure everyone's over it already, but you guys don't understand how helpful it is when big teams get into the market factors. And it helps us because we have a good following of people like that. We have a good following of people who like the Seminoles and like Florida State. But you guys got to realize that the bulk of people that show up at our shop like Alabama. And so it helps us do better, helps us have more of those types of cards and more of those types of things, and keeps the interaction going in the sports card field. So I just want to let everybody know that while you all know I'm an Alabama fan, and you're probably sitting there thinking, whatever. The fact of the matter is that it really does help us as a business to have teams like Alabama in it.
So what we needed, just being where we are, we needed Washington out.
Correct.
And Florida State in.
And that would have made it interesting right there.
And I did just get a text from somebody over at the shop. I'm not going to say who, but I believe it says Alabama sucks. What in the world is going on there? Oh, Ric Flair likes that one.
Yeah, I can tell you why. This degenerate that wrote this statement, this degenerate happens to like Georgia Bulldogs.
Oh, well, he didn't have a very good Saturday.
He is a degenerate, so I'm not going to say any names. Bill, excuse me, sorry.
There we go. Shots fired.
Shots fired.
Well, let's talk about just some of the product. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into it, but there are obviously some big things coming. Donruss football dropped late last week. First shot at downtowns. Obviously, football's huge. But let's talk football, because MLS soccer also dropped. And who is going to be the big star product in there?
Messi.
Lionel Messi.
Yeah, Lionel Messi is going to be in there. That's going to be important. Now, did it drop already, or is it going to?
It did. They delayed it, but it ended up dropping on Friday.
Okay,
there is a case in the shop.
All right,
actually, it's for sale and very reasonable as well.
You guys, if you are not a fan of soccer, you should be. And you should come buy some of this stuff. And I'm telling you why. Because the upside is unreal with this guy. If you pull one of his cards, the upside's fantastic and phenomenal. And you guys would be shocked at how well some of those cards do. So I would definitely come in and take a look look at it at least, in my personal opinion.
Well, as we get closer to Christmas, obviously people are kind of wondering, my kid's into cards, my husband's into cards, and my wife might be into cards, whatever, right. And we're kind of looking for things to buy. Well, there's a couple of big products dropping between now and Christmas that are really going to be fun. Let me start with the first one. On December the 12th, so a week from tomorrow. Bowman Draft drops. Now, not only
that's huge,
Todd, will that be all the guys who were just drafted, except they are holding Dylan Cruz back. But Paul Skeens, number 1 pick from LSU, is going to be in it. Wyatt Langford played at the University of Florida, 4th draft pick. Max Clark, the high schooler. Hurston Waldrop from Florida. A lot of these guys, their first ever Bowman cards in their, pro unis. But there's something else in Bowman Draft this year that they're doing that is unique, they haven't done, and it's going to put Bowman Draft over the top, and it might relate to TB12.
Right. So everybody knows how much I love Tom Brady. He sucks. All right. So no, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and I can say that, and I believe that.
Yep.
But in the end, he is actually going to be in the product. What a lot of you don't know is that he actually was drafted in baseball, and so he is allowed to be in the product. This is not a farce. And so he will actually have, I believe, autographs in the product. So it's a huge chase that they're putting in it. But remember, this product is not about chasing Tom Brady. Let's be real. This is Bowman Draft.
Yes.
This is all the draft picks that are coming up that'll have their very first cards, not rookies. That's just their very first card because they won't have the RC on it on some of them, because it's just their first card because they've been drafted. Once they hit the majors and actually play, then they can have the RC on their card, which there's going to be many of those in this product as well. Remember, with Bowman Draft, you also get chrome cards, you get refractors, you get all kinds of parallel type stuff. So remember that it's a very sought after product, and very much a product that you want to load up on to hold for a couple years, 2, 3, 4 years, and some of those players are going to be monsters.
Well, and obviously this was a huge draft class. I mean, it was a really deep draft, a lot of big names, a lot of collegiate names, some guys who probably will be in the bigs sooner than maybe some of the high schoolers. But the Brady thing, does this just take this over the top and quite possibly make this the baseball product of the year?
Absolutely. They're smart. They already know it's the baseball product of the year. They already know people prospect on this stuff.
Right.
And so to add that to the chase, you're not going to get all the people who don't like the product chasing.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, all the people who like the Inceptions and the big hit products and stuff, Bowman Draft's typically not for them. That's a prospecting product.
That's right.
That's I want all the rookies. I want to prospect on somebody and get hundreds of so-and-so's card because I think he's going to be the big winner and stuff like that. This is now puts a whole nother level of people wanting to be involved in the product.
Well,
because of that.
Well, and what makes it that much better, if you do get in just chasing Brady, and let's say you don't hit him, you've got all these great players right behind you.
You're going to get a crap ton of awesome stuff. I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, you are. I mean, that's just how Bowman. I know so many guys who buy cases of this stuff.
Yeah,
and some of them even sit on it. They don't even open it. Look, I bought a case of. It was probably about a year ago. I bought a case of 2018 Bowman Draft, and it had Michael Harris in it.
That's right.
And it had Spencer Strider in it, and that was their rookie card. Well, no.
Their first.
It's not their rookie. It was their first card autographed. And sure enough, 6 months later, we went ahead and brought it out of the safe, and a customer came in and bought almost the whole case from us. And they were hunting for Michael Harris and for Spencer Strider, and sure enough, they hit one of each, which was fantastic for them, and that's what they wanted. But we probably doubled our money on that by buying it a year ago, and then 6 months later selling it, out of the shop. So that's the type of effect these products can have. If you even sit on a case of this, you never know who's going to get hot in that product, and it's going to be their very first card. And then when it does become hot, you can turn around and flip it.
That's right.
So if you're in it for the money side of things, there's that. If you're in it because you love certain players, it's that.
Yeah.
And now if you're in it because you like big hits and chases, now you got Tom Brady in there.
Talking with Todd Mueller, PCB Hobby. Check them out at PCBHobby.com. Let's pivot to football. Baseball's not your thing. We're right in the middle of football season, just in time for Christmas, December the 20th. Look, About 2 months ago, you and I were in here, and live on the air, the news broke that the NFLPA was pulling away from Panini. Well, they got to stay on that. It's in arbitration. And so Panini is allowed to make more products. And on the good news, Panini's kind of flagship product, if you will, Prism, drops December the 20th. I mean, Prism is always a really sought-after football set. Obviously, we've got the issue with a few guys not doing autographs. But, I mean, does the fact that this might be the last time we get Prism maybe make it that much more special?
Well, it could. You know, it's really weird. Over the years, there's been times where products, have gone away. Mm-hmm. They used to have Leaf Century Collection. They used to have Leaf this, Leaf that. And it was all great products. And they went away. And to be honest with you, I don't think that it really mattered that it was their last run, back in 05, 06, whenever it went away. I think what's more important is who was in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. And look, Prism is a pretty staple product. Now, in my opinion, Prism's going nowhere. Mm-hmm. It just may not be Panini who owns it.
You think Fanatics will take it over?
I think Fanatics will take it over.
Okay.
I really think at some point Panini's going to have to give in.
Yeah.
And I hate that for them in one aspect, but I don't. I mean, let's talk about this. You guys have made a successful brand. Sell to the big boy.
Yeah.
Get out and know your successful brand is going to be taken care of because they're not going to go anywhere with it. They'd be stupid to end Panini.
That's true.
They'd be stupid. Create your own competition between Topps, Panini, and all the different products and take the best of the best and keep going with it. National Treasures, Flawless, stuff that people love, high-end good stuff. Prism. Some of the low-end stuff, okay, I get it. But then just make, in my opinion, just make the high-end stuff Panini, the middle and low-end stuff Topps.
Yeah.
And go about it that way and own the names and still produce the products. Why would you end any of it?
And put the Fanatics mega marketing machine behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
Hello? I don't know. Seems to make sense to me. I guess I can be a business person sometimes, but not all the time, I guess. But anyways, that's what I think of it.
No, I think you're right. And look, it's exciting. And, for those of you looking for Christmas gifts who may not know, obviously there's people in the shop that can help you with that. But you also have Christmas bags already made up at 3 different price points that are kind of designed for exactly, the parent or the grandparent or the uncle or the aunt who comes in and goes, I'm looking for a gift in the $25 range, the $50 range, the $100 range.
Right.
You have gift bags already made up, ready to buy.
Yes, we do. We have stuff already made up. And wrapped. Wrapped. We have a lot of price points, too, so everybody understands that it doesn't matter what the gifts are. You need to come in and pick up your gifts, though. You guys, we literally get ransacked when it gets closer to Christmas. So don't delay. Get in there and get some stuff purchased because it's going to be gone. We only have a finite amount of stuff. And look, I can tell you right now, if your little Johnny loves such and such, there's another little Johnny that loves such and such. And if they get there first, they're going to get the goods. It's as simple as that.
Who wins the college football playoff?
Oh, Alabama. Here's what's going to happen. This is so sad. They put Michigan in there. Michigan's going to play Alabama. Alabama's going to crush them. Like, literally. It's going to crush them. Everyone's going to be like, see, Wisconsin shouldn't have been there. Well, because they're not an SEC team or an ACC team. I mean, honestly, let's be real. They're just really good football teams. It's just almost a different caliber. This is my opinion. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Texas, who's a good Southern team, is probably going to wallop Washington.
Interesting.
Probably. And then it's just going to be right back to it. They should have just cut to the chase and said, you know what? The game of the century was Texas and Alabama. Let's just run it again.
Well, might be some Georgia fans would have liked to seen a rematch of that one, but I understand.
Or Georgia.
Yeah,
it could have been any of them. That's what I'm saying.
Florida State should have been in. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
but
Florida State should have been in over Washington is who they should have been over personally.
All right.
And so that would have made it much more interesting, and I think Florida State would actually have had a chance to beat Texas. I really do.
Great Gravy Boat captain marching into the fantasy playoffs?
I am. So I play tonight, guys. I play my nemesis because he's the only person that pretty much has beaten me, except David. I don't even want to talk about that. That was a fluke. That was a weekly fluke that David got. But right now I am down by, looks to be about 9 points. 11 points.
Okay.
And so... Excuse me, man, I cannot do math today. Almost 20 points, 19.
Okay.
All right, and my matchup is he's done.
Yep.
And I have Travis Etienne tonight against Jamar Chase.
You have both of them.
I have both. So I hope it's a very high-scoring game, and I hope that Jacksonville runs it a lot.
Yeah. Well, good deal.
So, anyways.
Well, as always, Todd, thanks for jumping in.
No problem.
You got to go stream tonight?
I do. Yes, I'm streaming tonight on PCB Coins. Brian has already started streaming. We call him Little Brian. Little Brian is already streaming right now. He started at 3 o'clock Central Time. So if you're not already watching PCB Coins on Whatnot, go check us out right now. Jump on and say hey to Brian and tell him Todd's on his way.
Outstanding. Again, PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd every Monday at 5:20. Get by, check out the new shop. Again, a lot of things going on. Going to be in the new space soon. And if you can't get out to the shop, check them out at PCBHobby.com. Todd, thanks again for coming in.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, when we get back, we're going to wrap this show up. Phone lines still open, 215-6290. And we're going to start with a little bit of local. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs right here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Colin Cowherd. I've always had this feeling with Pete that he doesn't like a quarterback-reliant team. He wants to run the football. Seattle's defense, it's not great. The running backs, I like them both. They're never healthy. What Pete Carroll wants to win with and what he needs to win with feel like he needs an ideological reboot.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good evening. This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida. For tonight, partly cloudy and a low of 49 with wind 5 to 10 miles per hour out of the north. Some sun tomorrow morning, a gentle breeze and warm near 59. Partly cloudy and 62 in the afternoon and evening. 58 and mostly sunshine with a moderate breeze Wednesday. Thursday, mostly sunshine and a temperature about the same at 56. This is your Monday's weather brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
PCB Hobby, the beach's premier hobby store for sports cards, comics, coins, and trading card games. PCB Hobby carries the largest selection of boxes and packs from the latest releases of brands like Topps, Panini, Leaf, and more. Looking for a specific player or team? PCB Hobby has a wide assortment of raw and graded cards. They carry parallel rookie, game used, and autographed cards in both modern and vintage. Have a collection you want to sell? We buy, sell, and trade. PCB Hobby on Back Beach Road, just east of Florida Linen. Call 850-320-8388.
Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, this is Tim.
Do y'all sell bait?
Yes, we seasonally stock live shrimp, live bull minnows, live sand fleas, live fiddler crabs, earthworms, night crawlers, crickets. We also stock frozen shrimp, sand fleas, mullets, squid, pre-rigged ballyhoo, bonita, stingray, cigar minnows, Boston mackerel, Spanish mackerel, and a few other miscellaneous baits. It's worth the drive to buy premium locally sourced bait from Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, located directly off Highway 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach.
You think you've been on your grind? The 11-year-old cashier at the Gin Gin puts in more hours than you.
Do any of you people do any actual work?
Just saying.
We might need to work on your sales pitch.
Less work and more play.
All right, show's over. Everybody back to work.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs, ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. Final segment today on the Afternoon Underdogs. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes today. Want to thank Bone Crusher back there behind the board for rocking the tunes and dealing with the phone calls and everything we've had. It has been a lively show today. Want to thank Kyle Wright for sitting in with us. And then, of course, Steve Barnes on the line and Todd Mueller there with the PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Let's get into a little bit of local here. I'm sure we can get back to the phone lines again. If you want to chime in with your thoughts on FSU or anything, 215-6290. In local news, Rooney Scoville has been named to the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Coach Scoville. 22 years at Gulf Coast State College, retired in 2020, where all she did was win 6 national championships and compiled a record of 646-91 over that time. So well deserved. The ceremony will take place April 27th in Knoxville, Tennessee. So congratulations, Coach Scoville. In local high school basketball scores on the boys' side, it was Bozeman getting past North Bay Haven 71-50. Mosley gets the better of Niceville 51-45. South Walton coming up just short in a thriller with Choctaw. Choctaw takes the win 41-40. It was Cottondale over Graceville 54-44. Sneed's better than Port St. Joe 69-55. Looks like it was Paxton getting by Red Level 47-45. Over on the girls' side on the hardwood, Bozeman completes the sweep. They take care of North Bay Haven 50-33. Liberty better than John Paul II, 36-16. It was Ponce de Leon better than Central, 54-41. Over on the pitch, we had 3 big scores. We saw the Ocho 3 times on the soccer pitch. On the boys' side, North Bay Haven 8, Bozeman 0. Little payback for basketball there for the Bucks over the other Bucks. Bay gets by Mariana 8-2, and over on the ladies' side, it was Mosley 8 and Port St. Joe 0. That'll kind of wrap us up locally. Some more headlines from around the nation outside of college football. Kenny Pickett is going to have surgery for a high ankle sprain. He will definitely miss this upcoming game, but they're going to evaluate, might be able to be back. It's amazing what they can do with modern medicine now. So we're going to have to wait on the news on Kenny Pickett. Shaq Leonard, who was let go by the Colts, has decided to join the Philadelphia Eagles. Great linebacker there. I think it was between the Eagles and Cowboys, and Shaq Leonard has decided to go over and join the Eagles. NFL odds to win the Super Bowl have been updated, and your new favorite, the San Francisco 49ers, coming off of their big win over the Eagles, now sit at plus 300. They are the favorite to win the Super Bowl. The Chiefs and Eagles sit second, tied at plus 550. Ravens come in next at plus 650. The Dolphins are plus 750. And them boys, the Cowboys, at plus 900. My Titans sit tied last at plus 100,000. I don't think the Titans are going to be taking the Lombardi this year. Brock Purdy has established himself now as the favorite for MVP. Quite a long way from Mr. Irrelevant. Brock Purdy sits at plus 300, or essentially 3-1 to win the MVP, slightly ahead of Dak Prescott, who sits at plus 325, and Jalen Hurts at plus 350. The Atlanta Braves were involved in a trade right here before the winter meetings really get kicked off full and well. The Braves pick up Jared Kelenic, Marco Gonzalez, and Evan White, plus some cash from the Seattle Mariners and then the Braves sent out to Seattle pitchers Cole Phillips and Jackson Kowar. Kowar was a first-round pick of the Kansas City Royals, who the Braves picked up, I believe, a year or two ago, and now is moving out west. Kelenic was a first-round pick. I believe he was actually picked by the Royals as well, or no, the Mets, and then went to Seattle in the Edwin Diaz trade. Kelenic, obviously great upside, but really has struggled a little bit since getting called up, but certainly has the ability to add to the Braves lineup there. Marco Gonzalez, a pitcher, and Evan White gives them a little bit of depth at first base. For Seattle, it helped them clear some of their contracts, which leads many to believe they're making another play at Shohei or possibly Juan Soto as we go into the winter meetings. So going to be very, very interesting there. Well, that's about it outside of college football. Again, phone lines are open if anybody's got any more takes on this. I just want to add, look, as I said, I'm an Alabama fan. I've been an Alabama fan my whole life. When you grow up in the state of Alabama, as I did, your final exam in kindergarten is pick one. And, while I'm happy Alabama made the playoff, I didn't love this team all year. But I certainly think they have the talent to win it all. That was never in question. But I really have to say I'm bothered by what happened this weekend. And, look, I'm going to watch it. It's what I do. I don't get paid to do this job, when I come in on Wednesdays, but I'm going to watch it because we want to talk about it on the radio. And I'd love to see Alabama get another national championship. But to be perfectly honest, I'm not that excited to watch this playoff. And I really hate that has become the thing.
Are Alabama fans feeling like underdogs this year? Is that a new sensation?
I don't know. I think it's interesting. They actually came out as betting underdogs to Michigan. I think everyone expected it going into the Georgia game. I'm not sure Alabama fans consider themselves an underdog against Michigan. I think a lot of Bama fans like the matchup. I'm not sure I agree. I think Michigan's done a wonderful job overcoming a lot of off-the-field noise and, a lot of upheaval. But I think a lot of Alabama fans feel like we just took down Georgia in Atlanta. Bring on anybody. And I think that's interesting. So I'm curious to see, it's obviously loud right now. Coming out of the weekend, it's fresh. Everybody's got their take on, should Florida State have been in there? Now, 3 weeks from now, will that still be the case? If so, Alabama fans are going to be salty that we need to go out and shut all this up and prove that we were the best team in the country this year. We'll see. I think that's going to be interesting. I think Nick Saban needs to have the players. If I were Nick Saban, I would say nobody thinks you should have been in here. Everybody thinks Florida State. Go out and show them why you need to be here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Florida State University player, you got to get up for this game and finish the season undefeated and make that statement. I don't see how an undefeated team in this situation cannot be a national championship.
I agree. And look, obviously the Orange Bowl is going to be an interesting scenario. We don't know what Georgia players are going to opt out. For that matter, we don't know what Florida State players are going to opt out. It's not going to hit the same. If those two teams played in the playoffs, it would be a totally different intensity level. Look, as much as these coaches are professional, it would be a totally different preparation level. It just would. It's different. I really hope Mike Norvell can rally the troops, get everybody on page and say, we're going to go out and show. I don't know that it'll matter to anybody, but it'll matter to the team. It'll matter to the Florida State fans. Mm-hmm. It'll matter to the people in Tallahassee. It'll matter to the families of the players. Go out, represent Florida State, show them that you put together. Nobody beat us this year. Yeah. I think that would be a wonderful play. And ironically, if Alabama does go through and win the national championship and Florida State wins the Orange Bowl, they're going to be the undefeated team left.
Wow.
I mean, that would be unbelievable. I mean, that you want to talk about it really exploding than it could there.
We used to have like co-national championships. Remember when Georgia Tech was the co-national championship?
What, 1990, I believe.
Bring that back. Yeah, when you drive through Atlanta, that sign is up. They're very, very proud of that co-national championship.
Look, obviously the last couple of years have been rough to troll Georgia fans because they've gone back to back. But we used to make that point that, up until 2 years ago, we'd say Georgia Tech has won a national championship more recently than Georgia has.
Ouch.
And you can imagine how well that went over. Now, Georgia has showed us who's boss the last couple of years. And look, it's hard to say if they were in the playoff, could they win it? Yeah, I think they could have. That's what's so interesting to me. And we said it earlier. I think there's 6 or 7 teams that legitimately have a shot to win a 14 playoff. Unfortunately, only 4 get to play. And I'm not so sure Oregon doesn't have the talent to belong. They're kind of a mystery to me, but obviously they lost 2 games. I don't think they should be there. I just don't think at the end of the day, the games have to matter. And I don't think an undefeated team that plays in a Power 5 conference that went on the road and beat a team on the road who's won 2 national championships in the last 6 years, who played 2 SEC teams non-conference, neither at home, and beat both of them, who probably did the best job shutting down Jaden Daniels, who's probably going to win the Heisman this year, of anybody. I mean, Alabama had to knock him out to get him not to have the stats, that he did in the other games. Florida State just shut him down. So I think I would have been happier as a college football fan had Florida State been rewarded by being in the playoff.
What's your 4? Who are you sending?
I think Michigan, Washington, Florida State, for me, have to be in because they went undefeated through a Power 5 conference and won their conference championship. As much as this pains me to say, because I think it matters on the field, I'd probably put Texas in 4.
How can we have such a good SEC conference this year and not send the champion of the SEC to the playoffs?
To be perfectly honest, the SEC is the deepest, toughest conference in the country. And when they all have one loss and there's 3 undefeateds out there and the only other team that you're comparing has a head-to-head win in Tuscaloosa over Alabama, I think it's hard. Do I think Georgia and Alabama are 2 of the best teams in the country? I absolutely do. But this has to be about earning it on the field. Otherwise, why play the season? So otherwise, look at the beginning of the year, we'd have just gone Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama. You guys play, and the rest of you can just go sit at home. I don't think that's what college football should be, and I just wish Florida State had a chance to play. Bone Crusher, again, thanks for everything running. It was a great show today. Thanks to all our callers. Thanks to Kyle Wright, to Todd, to Steve Barnes. Coach Hale's going to be on in the morning, so if you guys want to rile up at Alabama, give Coach a call. Ryan Mulvey with the Inside Drive at 11. You've been listening to the Afternoon Underdogs right here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
The next evolution in sports talk radio. We're back! On 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. The Afternoon Underdogs.
Hello.
The only live afternoon show in Panama City where you can win